So God, in order to create the worlds, God had to estimate inside of himself. He had to make a plan. Kol ma sheyiyeh, everything which will be after this contraction. After God made this, what's concealment, in order to create the worlds. Bichdei, in order, le'shehithavu ta'olamot, the creation of the worlds, Hersha with us, tiyeh will be kafiri she'olah b'ratzono, will be how it was when it rose up in God's mind. Yitzborech. God created the world. There's a whole process of how this happened. How these Kabbalists knew this, I have no idea. But it was obviously revealed to them from God, like prophets, almost like a prophet. Right? These people were tremendously inspired people, and because they had such a tremendous desire to understand how God created the world and how to serve God better, and how it's a commandment in the Torah for every Jew, even the most simple Jew, even the most low IQ Jew, to love God with all of your heart. You have to love God. Not only love what God does and what God gives you, but to love God himself. It's a commandment to love God. How can you love God if you don't have any idea what he is?
And you can never know what he is.
Huh? But you can approach it. That's the idea. You can approach what God is. Right, as best you can. That's the idea of prayer. That's why most of the Kabbalistic ideas are written regarding the prayer books, so we can appreciate God more. And the more we appreciate God, is the more we can arouse our hearts. There's a beautiful mimer about this, which is called Shorsh Mitzvahs Tefillah, in a book called Derech Mitzvotecha by the third Rebbe of Chabad. Umavayaran explains the Gam Shoresh HaMedidah Shlifnei HaTzimtzum, that God measured in his mind, so to speak, in his essence of his will, how the world was going to be. Hashara Bakoach, this potential, plan that God made. The Gam Aliyah Baratzon, and also that it rose up in God's mind to make the world. Hu Bichlal Hagiluyim Sheba'olamot. This is also regarding all of the revelations in the world. Everything that was going to be rose up in God's mind. Now this is happening right now also, because this is before time. This is above the whole concept of time. Time is just part of the creation. That God rose up in God's mind to do these things is not just all of a sudden it happened. It's incomprehensible. This is a thing which is beyond time. This is what's called the light of the Kav, the light of this beam of creation. There had to be, I skipped the whole line. That even in this general light, which is before the first contraction, this is not comparable to the worlds. No matter how many contractions you make, it's not going to be relevant to the world. In order that you can reveal any sort of light which is even relevant to be in the worlds, in other words, for God to speak, or let's say in our example, in order for a person even to begin to learn to speak Russian, they had to be what was called removing of the light. In other words, the person has to say to himself, let's take in our case, I am not going to speak, I'm not going to say one word in English to these people. Not one word. My whole thinking has to be different. God makes a decision, I'm not going to give anything infinite. Everything that's going to be from now on is going to be finite. Whether it's the world of Atzilus or the worlds that are above Atzilus, everything from now on is going to be a different type of revelation, a different type of reality. Not real reality. Created reality. That's God creating the world. That's what's called the removal of God's light, so to speak. Nevertheless, but in God's essence, there is a revelation which is relevant to the worlds. In other words, God never removes himself. And really, God never removes his light. The light is always there. It's just God has some way of covering this over. That's what's called the first Tzimtzum. From this, move on, it's understood. Oh, Dioter, even more. But God Eloi shall agiluyim the Torah. The great revelation of what is the Torah. So what are we saying? The creation of the worlds comes from God's essence. God, In his essence, he creates the world. And in order, it's so essential, this light is so powerful, that in order to create the worlds, God has to make all of these tricks and concealments and removals and veils. But nevertheless, the world is created from this tremendously high light. From this we can understand how great is the Torah. If the world comes from God's essence and the Torah is higher, so now we can understand what the Torah is, or at least we can appreciate that the Torah is something totally higher than the worlds. The Al Yedei Torah, by means of the Torah, who Gilui is the revelation, Atzmos or in sof, the essence of God's light, Shalamayla, which is above Migeder Sheichut La'olamos, above any connection to the worlds. So we can see that we can't take the world at face value. The world is tremendously deep. I read somewhere that the Baal Shem Tov said that we say in our prayers of Rosh Hashanah, you're listening to me, Herschel, it says, Ata Yodea Razei Olam. We say in the prayers of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, you and God know the secrets of the world. And the Baal Shem Tov said the secrets of the world are higher than the secrets of the Torah. Because what happens in the world, which is called Hashgacha Pratis, how God makes everything move and everything interact in order that it should come to be revealed that a Jew should go there and say a word of Torah, that this is a secret in a way that's even deeper than the Torah itself. Do I understand that? Totally not. But that's what the Rebbe is trying to tell us. Don't think that the world is just a whole big bluff and it's all a big lie and that the only truth is just the Torah and the upper worlds. It's not so. The world contains inside of it potentially a higher truth than the Torah. Inside of it. But only the Torah can reveal it. Only the Torah is the key to reveal it. The Torah comes from God's essence. It has the key to reveal also how God's essence is in the world. But of course the world, until you reveal it, the world is a tremendous bluff. The world is called Amud Shikra. It's a big lie.
Which came first, the chicken and the egg?
In a way, but it says that the Torah came first. That's how Rashi begins the Torah.
But yeah, Baal Shem Tov is saying something slightly different.
No, he's not. The secrets of the world are here. It says the Bereshit, it says Bereshit Beit Reshit, that the Torah and the Jewish people were before the world.
So we could say just as Hashem creates the world, he also created the Torah.
Yes, sure, of course you can say that. That's what Chassidus comes to teach you. First of all, Chassidus is coming to teach you that even if you did say that, right, that's not such a bad thing to say. Because you can say, okay, but you have to do according to the Torah. You have to live in the world according to the Torah. But the world is tremendously, tremendously deep and godly in its essence. But God created it purposely in a way that all of that is tremendously concealed to the point where you can have people. And how is it concealed? It's concealed in what we call nisyonot, in bad experiences in the world. How the world can drive you crazy, right? You say a person is a big Talmud Chacham or something, and somebody disturbs him. Somebody steals from him.
Somebody makes fun of him.
Somebody makes fun of him. Somebody, right? And he gets mad and he gets angry. What are you getting angry for? God sent it, right? God sent you this. God sent you this thing in order that you should correct it. What are you getting angry for? The answer is you're getting angry because I'm a human being, right?
God tests us all.
God tests everybody, right? And when a test comes, you don't feel that it's a test. That's what the test is. You don't feel that it's a test. You feel that there's simply no other alternative. This guy cut me off on my car, right? And with his car, I get angry. I also get angry. I know I shouldn't do it. I read them my morning. And when somebody just says, right? He cut me off that. All of a sudden I think to myself, what am I doing? And it takes a few minutes, a few seconds, a few hours, right? Just not to be angry at this person anymore. Depending on the degree of the, right? If you catch it right in the beginning, and you don't get angry, you don't get depressed, then it's a lot easier. But as soon as you let your automatic, you go on automatic, then it's very difficult. It can get stuck in there for years, right? Years.
It makes you realize how amazing the Akeda was.
Yeah, sure, that's right. That's right. And then there's people like they hold a grudge, or they're mad at somebody, they hate their parents, they hate their school, they hate their teacher for things that never even happened. Things that didn't even happen. My teacher, he ignored me. I had something I had to tell him, it was very important, and my teacher, he didn't want to listen to me, right? And it ends up that on that day, the teacher had his tooth pulled or something, and he was in pain, and he didn't hear anything that anybody said. He wasn't ignoring you, person, right?
What a stupid idea.
And that's what people live their whole lives like that. People live their whole lives like that.
But do they do tshuva?
If they're lucky. If they're lucky.
Maybe I have to go for Gehenna to get to Gan Eden when they die.
We're not talking about after you die. After you die, Hashem takes care of it. He puts you through the car wash. Everything comes out okay. Right? After you die is okay. The idea is that now in this world you have to get fixed up. One of the problems in this world is when people think in this world too much about what happens after they die. Right? That you have to get washed off from also. Because it's a selfish thing to think about, right? I'll help this person because afterwards they're going to go to heaven, and this old lady she's going to testify that I took her across the street, and it's going to save me. In other words, he's not doing anything for the old lady, right? He's not doing it to be nice because he likes people. He loves people. He wants to serve Hashem. He loves himself. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Here we go. The Yesh Lomo, we can say the Mash Ketub B'Maimer, that what it says in the Maimer in the beginning. The Kavana Benatina to Torah, that the intention in giving the Torah, he is the drawdown, or Ein Sof. Shalif, and Tzimtzum, that is before the Tzimtzum, that's before this original contraction of Hashem. Hagam, even though She'iloi, the Torah, that the highness of the Torah is Shagam, also in Or Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum, Gufa itself. Nimshach Hagiloi, there is revelation of Atzmos Ein Sof, which is above the light, which is relevant to the world. What are we talking about? We said before that God, before he made the world, he made a plan. And this plan that God made in his mind, right, this originates in God's essence. But it's the essence of God that's relevant to the world. And the Torah is a type of a light of God, which is higher than the world. This is a deeper level of God's essence. Like it says, the Torah and God are one. The world is, so to speak, a creation. Creation comes from God's essence, yes, but it's a type of light of God that comes from God's essence, but it's not God's essence. The Torah is God's essence.
The world is God's image. God created the whole world.
Man, not in a way, you're right. And also he created man in his image, and he created also every Jew in his image, and each one is a higher level. But the Torah is the real image of God. The Torah is the real image of God, and the job of the Jewish people, if a non-Jew learns Torah, it doesn't do anything. A Jew learns the Torah, it reveals something in the world, something happens. Now, of course, you have to understand something. When we learn Torah, you see anything happening?
No.
You see, and we learn the Torah, you see something happening. You don't see anything happening. What happens when you learn, all of a sudden you learn the Torah, everything becomes brighter. You go into Bnei Brak, there they learn Torah. All of a sudden it's brighter in the streets, everybody is smiling. Exactly the opposite. You go there, I never saw anybody smile in Bnei Brak. I lived there for 4 years. I never saw anyone smile. Right? I didn't smile.
No wonder why the waters there is so...
Maybe now it's different. I haven't been there living there for a long time. You go in Bnei Brak, and one miraculous thing you see in Bnei Brak is the kids running through the street, the people driving their cars, at top speed, and the kids running. All of a sudden, the car just misses this kid, and the kid just runs. So you see all sorts of miracles. It's true in the streets.
I heard that the water's so clean they have to put the Coke factory there. Maybe that's why.
Water so clean. Never heard that. I never heard that before.
But somebody told me.
Whoever that person is, don't talk to him anymore. Let's go. You can talk to him. Don't let him talk to you.
Okay.
Hagam the ilah of the Torah who shagam Or Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum itself was drawn. He says really the Torah, even before the world was created, even in God's essence, the Torah is the revelation of God's essence, even in this light that was before that was before this Tzimtzum. Again, God created the world from his essence, but it's what's called the outer part of his essence. The Torah is the inner part of his essence. So the Torah, even in God's essence, it revealed a higher type of a light in the outer part of God's essence from the Torah, which is God's inner essence. But nevertheless, the main thing is in this world. Why? Ki gam hamshachat ha'or, because also the light which was drawn into the world, shelifnei hatzimtzum, is by means of tzimtzum. This is also by means of a contraction. What's it mean? The Torah by its essence is not a contracted light. That's what the Rebbe wants to say. The Torah in its essence is not a light which is hidden. The light of the Torah is revealed. Let's just see. Hagam, even though tzimtzum shahaya ba'or zeh, even though that this tzimtzum, which was in this light, which was going to create the worlds, is called tzimtzum arishon. It's called the first tzimtzum. Harim mavur b'makom acher. It's explained in another place that also before this first tzimtzum, this first contraction that God made, so to speak, in His light, in order to create the world, that before this there was kama v'kama tzimtzumim. There were many, many contractions before this. The nosef lazeh shamshachat or hashayach la'olamot me'or shalom ma'ila v'shayachat la'olamot is by means of a tzimtzum. This, and besides the fact that the light that's this light which is above the worlds had to be contracted in order to create the worlds. It's also by means of a tzimtzum. Because what are we saying? That God, in order to create the worlds, not only was there a contraction of God's light in order to make the world of Atzilus, but there was also a contraction of God's light in order to make what's called Malchus of Ein Sof and all these different levels which are in God's essence. The Mekiv and Shagam or Zeh, that even this light, which is above connection to the worlds, is Hamshach of Agilah, God drew it down. Well, even Neze, before this, or because before this it was in the essence of what's God's called the God's power of illumination, the power of God to create to emanate from Himself. The Me'or is the source of light. Ubafrat sheyesh lomar, and especially we can say shapirush zeh, that it was in God's essence, that this light was in God's essence. The light that came to create the worlds is shahaya kalu ba'atzmos shalomayla. This is in the essence which is above mitor me'or. It was even above this level which is called the illuminator. So again, God is what's called the emanator or the illuminator. God is the source of all this light. In order for this light to come out from God's source of light and create the world, there had to be a big contraction. Said the Rebbe that there had to be a big contraction, but before that there were also a lot of smaller contractions. There were also, says the Rebbe, that even more, this source of God's light is even higher than what we say. It's not just what's called the Me'or, the illuminator, but it comes from God's essence, really from God's essence. If so, what are we talking about now? There's very, very little difference between the light of God which gives the Torah and the light of God which creates the worlds. So moving, it's understood, the hamshachas ha'or, the drawing down this light, shebechinas gilui, in a revealed way, to reveal it from the me'or, and which is this me'or, this illuminator, which is included in God's essence of the me'or. I'm sorry, me-ha-or, from the light, which is included in the essence of God's illuminating power. This is by means of a tremendous contraction. Tzimtzum atzum. There's no comparison to this in the world. We can't compare this in the world. The only comparison I can even think of, in a way, is taking a genius person, take Einstein, and Einstein tries to explain. They take Einstein and they say, okay, explain your ideas of physics to a third grade class. And he said, okay, I really have to work on this. I'm sorry, we made a mistake. Not to explain it to a third grade class. You have to explain it to a herd of cows. What? This is the most stupid thing I ever heard in my life. Cows, how could I possibly do that? He says, well, cows do sort of respond, a little bit. they say, "Oh, listen, it's a bigger mistake than we thought. It's not to, you don't have to not explain your ideas to cows. You have to explain your ideas. We're taking you to a greenhouse. You have to explain these ideas to cucumbers." Says, how can I explain? You know, I want to quit this job. I don't know. I don't like this job. Says, no, you have to do it. I mean, it's a necessary thing. That's what it's part of your tenure. You know, you signed an agreement. Didn't you see the little print on the bottom? Says, why would you want to do the thing like that? Teach people.
You want to teach children.
You don't get paid unless they pass the test.
Unless they pass the test. So he says, well, okay, cucumbers are. How am I going to explain it? He says, well, you should know that cucumbers, they do have some sort of a response. We tested them with music. So you'll explain it and they'll have a response. They come and they say, listen, sit down for a second, Albert. I want to tell you something. You have to explain this idea. I know this is going to sound really stupid to you, but you have to explain this idea to, you ready? Mount Everest, a rock. You have to explain the idea to, couldn't you get something closer to home a little bit, a little bit?
Can you teach children instead?
Teach children, you can't do it. It's ridiculous. It's insane. How can, the whole idea, what I'm saying is crazy. Well, the fact of the matter is, Einstein and math and physics, right? Physics of Einstein, the theory of relativity of Einstein, and a rock, a mountain, are in the same world. It is part of the world. It's just a much lower level of reality. But Hashem and the world are not in the same level at all. To take God's light and to put God's light and to make a world from it is in a way infinitely more ridiculous than say that Einstein coming and explaining physics to a rock. Right? Hashem is we have no way of explaining how infinitely real Hashem is and how infinitely not real that we are. But on the other hand, we know Hashem is creating us, right? He is creating us. So this is what we're trying to talk about, this idea of tzimtzum, this idea of Hashem contracting his reality in order to make the upper worlds, and then to make the lower worlds, and then finally to make humans, then to make animals, to make plants, to make rocks, right? It's a little bit of a sort of an example of what type of reality we're talking about now, especially when you have to think about when we, in this whole crazy example that I gave, we're like the rocks, and Hashem is like the Einstein, Abdil, right? Hashem is like that. How can we possibly understand what Hashem is? So it says the Rebbe is that once in a while you have a rock which has godly consciousness. We have a Rebbe. And the Rebbe is a person that is in the world like Moshe Rabbeinu. He can get the Torah from God. He can get the Torah from God. And all the generations that were prophets and people that had Ruach HaKodesh and Arizal and people that really had the inspiring that they could actually bring the real true awareness of God into the world. Because here, this is where the whole thing changes around. A rock and Einstein, they have no connection whatsoever. But God created the world for a purpose. The world in a way is higher. This physical world is higher than all the upper world. It was almost like if you said to Einstein, if you can convince this rock, if the rock can really explain physics, then it'll explain to you ideas of physics you never dreamed of it. So he says, Al Pizeh, according to this, Yesh Lomar, that what it says in the Mimer, that the Kavanah, the whole reason of giving the Torah is Lahamshich, to draw down light which is before the Tzimtzum. The intention in this means not just the light which is before the Tzimtzum or Rishon, like we said, which is also in the light which creates the worlds. Elagam la'or shalivnei kol hatzimtzumim. The light, the essence of God, which is before all of the contractions, all the concealments, all this, that is what is inside of the Torah. And it was from the world itself. You could never extrapolate. You could never come from the world itself to understand what is the essence of God. Only in infinitely great people like Abraham. That was the novelty of Abraham. But Abraham realized that the Torah was there before the world. So he realized that there's a world, but he also realized that there's a Torah. That's why it says that Abraham came to do the whole Torah before it was given. Avram came to do that because Avram revealed, look at the world, and he realized there must be a Torah. There must be some purpose. There must be some reason. There must be some essence of this world. The world can't be totally bad. God wouldn't have just put us in this totally bad world. Right? So that was the novelty of Abraham, that this world somehow or other contains in it the biggest gems that there can possibly be, the biggest treasures and riches there can possibly be in this physical world. Namely, what? The essence of the Torah can be revealed here.
Yeah, that the world is not by chance.
The world is not by chance, as we've sort of gone.
The Big Bang Theory is false.
Yeah, I get maybe.
It is.
I guess it is. Yeah.
100%.
It's got a little truth
Yeah.
in it. The problem is with the Big Bang Theory.
It's not
is,
true.
No, is the universe is contracting and expanding, but it doesn't say how it got to the point
It's because
before
Hashem
it was small.
Right. I mean, the thing is stupid.
Because Hashem is always expanding the universe.
Listen, all these ideas about
Hashem.
all these theories about how the world existed, all of them presuppose that there was something
Before.
in the beginning that got there. How did this something get there?
Hashem was there.
How did this thing? They don't say it was Hashem. How does the thing get? Because if you say it's Hashem,
Stupid, that's
no.
why.
If you say it's Hashem, there has to be a director. And according to them, there's no director. Nature directed. Who nature? Like somebody said, who passed the laws of nature?
Is part of God. That's
Who-
all it is.
It's an aspect of God, but that's because we believe that. That's belief. The scientists want to say we don't have any belief. We have only facts. Which that's the big problem. Because they consider it to be, they believe in their facts. They believe in their facts.
The
Right?
fact is
They
that God
they have
created
no
nature.
they have no idea what there was in the beginning. Before the world was created, what was it? There had to be something. How did that something get?
Hashem.
1 second. How did that something get there? How did that original dot or that original whatever it was, how did it get there? How did it come? So there's the Greek philosophy says, which is basically the philosophy as far as I understand that all this is based on, is that there always was something.
That's the problem.
Right? There always was something. And which is not so hard to believe. I mean, they're not so hard. Just like, for instance, you say, can you imagine what the end of the universe is? No, it goes infinitely. So maybe time is also infinite. Maybe time also
People are infinite.
went back. Maybe, who knows?
Thanks to better medicine and
It's
the
very,
help of Hashem
it's
and
very,
God,
very essential and
people
very,
are now infinite.
it's very important, very essential that Judaism must be based on faith and faith alone. Very, very, very essential. A person has to be based on faith. As soon as you base Judaism on facts, on what the prophets say, on what the Rebbe say, on what the this says, and it doesn't go into you personally, then it's going to be troubles. It becomes a big ego trip. The whole thing becomes what I understand and I know and I understand. It has to be that a person feels infinitely small, infinitely nothing. And that it's just a big miracle that God is creating me all the time. It's totally not understandable at all. And one of the things that's most not understandable is that we can understand things. There are things, a lot we can understand. Hey, that's what we're learning Chassidic for, Chabad. It's a commandment to try to understand as much as possible. But the part of Chabad, the Chachma part of Chabad, that's faith, that's emunah. That's emunah. We believe that it's so. We believe that God created the world. We believe God creates the world all the time. We believe this. Rambam, 13 principles of faith. It's faith, emunah. As we'll talk about, God willing, next time.
Rabbi,